What's up guys, Shane of Fugatech 3 Printing, and today I'm going to give you my final thoughts here on the Geeetech E180. So welcome back guys. So this is actually being a rather quick review after receiving a printer and me doing a review. I have hundreds if not thousands of hours on other printers that I have yet to review, but this one is a little special because it has issues. It's not that it doesn't work, so we'll go into what those different issues are. It's just not very good. And that's like almost subjective. Like it kind of is good, but it kind of isn't. There's pros and cons of this printer. More cons than pros though. But let's go over some of the specs real quick for this printer. So the Geeetech E180 sports a 130 millimeter build envelope. So the X, Y, and the Z, all 130 millimeters. Although the bed is humongous, it's almost 200 millimeters, but you can only use a little over half of that. Why? I have no idea. It's just the way they built the printer. This printer is also supposed to feature Wi-Fi, which doesn't work. This printer does not sport a heated bed. So that's kind of an issue with a printer at this price point. You know, it is a Bowden style printer. So you can see there is the Bowden tube here. It goes back to an extruder mounted on the rear of the printer. And I have a spool of filament queued up right here, which I was recently using to print with. Now the power supply goes in via a DC jack, and it is a laptop style power supply. So if that fails, you can buy a replacement, but you can also probably just get a real cheap laptop charger that has the same port and be able to make it work as well. Probably have higher amperage than the current one does. It doesn't need a lot. Again, this printer doesn't have a heated bed. So you only need to run the extruder and that's it. It's very easy to do. This printer also has interchangeable nozzles by their little proprietary wrapped nozzles, which is I think a very cool idea, as it is very easy to swap out. So it is this hardened plastic. So well, let's put it this way, let's go the opposite way. So it is the brass nozzle surrounded by a ceramic insulator. Then it has this hard plastic insulator around that, and then there's contacts up here at the top. And if you look down in there, you can actually see the Bowden tube down in there where your filament is going to run into. So it's not all metal. It's a PLA only machine. And these contacts hook up, and that has the heater, 2 contacts for the heater, 2 contacts for the actual thermistor that are in there. And it's a very interesting design. It makes it real easy for the user to pop out. There's a little tube that came in the printer. You stick it on a little nub, you pull to the right, and this literally just drops out. Get the new one, put it on there, push that little lever back to the left, and it locks it in. I mean, the fastest nozzle change of any printer I have ever seen or experienced. So that is very cool. But the design of this is one of the big issues, and let me tell you why. Now this is the original nozzle that came on the printer, and I've printed quite a few hours on this. I was actually printing out little fossil fish to give away at the last Maker Faire that I did at my work, and they were coming out okay for a while. But then all of a sudden I started getting these blips and blobs on everything, and I couldn't figure out what it was, and it looks like it was burning. I have some examples here I'll show you guys. And there's actually a bit of clear goo coming out of the nozzle, and someone said that they're actually using hot glue in here in order to hold everything together as kind of like an insulator and like kind of as a filler instead of like a silicone or something like that. They're using hot glue. I can't confirm it's hot glue because it actually has dried rather hard, and hot glue, as you know, once it dries, it still is a little bit malleable. I mean, it's rubbery feeling. This dries absolutely hard and just chips off. Well, this nozzle was causing quite a lot of issues, and I was getting a bunch of burns on prints. So here, Dumbledore has several burns on him for some reason. And then this one, that's after I swapped it out. This one has several throughout all of it. Somebody's like, oh, you're printing too hot. Well, if I went any lower than 200, the printer would just start to skip because it needed to be, for the film I was using, it needed to be at least 200 degrees centigrade. So I was like, okay, well, let me try something different. I swapped out the nozzle and perfect. Back to perfect results again, at least for a vase mode. Other prints, it's okay, but again, it's not the highest quality printer out there. And you can actually more easily see it here in this little torture benchy that someone had created. And there are so many brown spots in here that it just all of a sudden, you know, parts under extruded because of that. And there's weak infill parts. And I figured that out on several of these. And then these final 2 benchies actually came out fairly nice. Now the quality on this is kind of mediocre. And when I say that is because if you have a simple print, like a simple benchy, this is actually a really, really good benchy. I'm impressed with it. Not the best I've had, but it definitely, I would call it good quality. On this torture test benchy style one, it also came out okay. It did good on the bridging, overhangs came out great, small details were filled in, a little under extruded for some reason, but aside from that, it came out really nice. And then you have things like, I printed this little master sword. I'm gonna put it together here in a minute just to kind of, I wanted a mini master sword, and I figured, well, I wanted to try a full build plate on the Geeetech. I was doing a full build plate of the fossil fish, but I wanted to do something a little more complicated than just those simple fish. I guess they're not really simple. Either way, I want to try a full build plate with stuff. So I filled the build plate with this master sword, and some parts look great, but then all of a sudden there's these weird random issues on it. Like, they're not quite layer shifts, and the filament is good filament. I did a review with it. This is the Essentium Green, and it came out good, but then I would get random under extrusion lines on it. The Z seam was actually pretty hardcore using their software. Even though I did do some of these also with my Simplify 3D profile, it's still pretty bad. That was quite surprising. And there's also, it's almost like some of these parts were moving. Well, they weren't moving because originally I had this whole entire thing failed on me, and I went ahead, it's only used blue painter tape, so I went ahead and threw down a little bit of glue on it, and then that ended up holding these better. One of the parts did fail on the other one, and it just totally went. So I did that. So none of these were wobbling, but they just have these weird extrusion lines through them, and it's not the same all the way around. Also, I was monitoring the printer, and the acceleration is rather odd. When it starts a circle or something, it goes and then whoom, goes around real quick. And I found that a little weird. My other printers seem to be pretty, I don't even know the word, symmetrical in their movement. Like when it starts going around, it's pretty much the same speed. Like they can get up to speed so quickly because the movements are so small, there's never really an issue. But this kind of seemed to like start out slow and then really whip around when it did it. That was mainly, I saw that with circles. So I don't know if that's just something with circles with this printer or what it is. But I mean, some parts like this handle came out great. I don't understand why that did. Again, and in some of these other ones, where's the one that has the actual, oh yeah. And then this one had like a deposit on it, on the side of it, which made the extruder skip on it. And now there's like a big like dent in the side of the sword. Might look cool for battle damage, but other than that, no. And then there's also like an under extrusion line in here, which again, randomly in here, there were issues. It was not consistent with anything. In base mode, it worked out, I'd say, really well. The extrusions are even on a simple print like this. This one actually had one under extrusion about halfway through one of the layers. Other than that, perfect print. And then this one here came out perfect pretty much all the way through, but I still would get these random globs that would come off on the print. And that's something that you see with like PETG. That's really common with PETG, but it's not common at all with PLA. I made sure that the nozzle was tight, but actually it was queuing up on the tip, where the tip and that ceramic part are there. That's where we're like queue up at. And I'm not sure why that happened or why that was, because this is a vase mode print. Very simple, the extruder never stops and it just goes and goes and goes till the print is done. Can't figure out why that was a problem. And it's a little hairy at the top because I actually scaled this a little bit too big, and had the parameters were wrong in the default Simplify 3D profile that I was using, and yeah, it ended up knocking it off the build plate because it was too tall. Again, another example of a single extrudent vase mode print, which came out okay. I've printed this huge on my FT5, which came out great, but this one, there's some under extrusions on some of the corners that it takes, and again, I don't know why that happened. Just because it's a simple print, and the overhangs are not terribly bad on this. This is the futuristic Christmas tree, which I really, really like. But yeah, that was just a problem. I mean, and one other thing with this. So leveling the bed to their automated bed leveling wizard is useless in my opinion. Absolutely useless. It doesn't work at all. The best thing to do is start a larger print like this, and then just adjust your four corners as you go. Or do it manually, have it go down to 0, kill it, and then run your paper through and try it that way. But otherwise, just eyeball it as it's printing. Because the print bed again is so much bigger than your actual print volume, these screws never really go underneath the X-axis arm here. So you can easily adjust them. With a lot of other printers, if you're printing close to the edge, your print head is going to get near that corner and it's hard to tweak it down while it's there. Very easy to do on this printer while it's printing. But that's also the problem because the corners are so far away from the actual build area. It's a little hard to adjust in my opinion. The other thing I don't like about this printer is that the Y-axis is using a 4mm wide belt. It is tiny, and I feel that over time that's going to wear down. This printer is not printing fast by any means, but I feel like you should be using a larger, sturdier belt on this just to ensure that it's going to be, you know, a good movement. And what's kind of funny, that being said, the X-axis uses a 6mm belt. I don't understand why it's doing that, but it is. It's just kind of funny that's the way they chose. I mean, the extruder itself has a part cooling fan and a extruder fan, like the cold end fan, all mixed together in one. You know, it's a very good design, I think, how they started that with the extruder in the back. It's a rare old MK8 or MK9 extruder housing, which is also really nice, very simple to replace if you wanted to. It's hidden away by this little casing here, but the casing easily pops off. And there's your super simple extruder. I never had any problems with the Bowden tube popping out, so the PTFE push fittings are of decent quality. Like I said, I did have random under extrusion issues, and then the nozzle issue with this just kind of being goofy. So I don't know, again, what was going on with that. And then, as I said, it was oozing. But all like, see, this Dumbledore came out pretty good. Aside from the burn-in on it, it was actually a pretty decent print. And I, again, don't understand why it's so inconsistent. I can get a good, not complicated, but fairly complicated print here, but yet I'm getting all these issues on, you know, smaller, easier parts to print. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. And also this little owl here, the front of him is nearly perfect, but then on the back, there's a random like skip extrusion line halfway through the line of extrusion. Don't know what that was about either. It kind of is random with the issues that happen with this printer. Also, the bottom did warp a little bit because, again, I'm printing just on the blue painter's tape. There's no glass or anything there. I didn't use any adhesion except for printing out this Master Sword. Now, this printer retails for anywhere between $300 and $250 US. My problem with that is that you can pick up the Monoprice Select Mini, which is a 120 cube build envelope. This is 130 cube for $200, and the V2 actually is like between $200 and $220. That has a heated bed, and the new version has like an E3D style hot end on it, where this does not. And I feel like for $30 more, and it have less features in it, that's a breaking point right there. Now it totes this whole Wi-Fi deal. Wi-Fi doesn't work at all. I have yet to see someone online in the Geeetech group or anywhere else actually get the Wi-Fi working on this. It just doesn't work, period. So saying that it has Wi-Fi is really not anything that anyone should be saying it has. And also on the price that you can get the Ender 2, which is a 140 by 140 by 200 millimeter build volume for like $170 on sale, like 200 usually, but it goes down, like I've seen as low as 150. Like that printer prints amazingly out of the box, heated bed. Heated bed actually heats up in like 30 seconds to 60°C. It's super quick. It's really awesome. I'm looking at it right now because I just finished a really nice print on it. And it's so easy to modify something like that because using 2020 extrusions. The Monoprice Select Mini, really hard to modify because it's not using that. And this, in my opinion, probably almost impossible to modify. You know, you can do a couple things on the bed, but that's about it. You know, they're also using a proprietary firmware on it because it has this interesting little touchscreen, which isn't bad. It actually counts down how long it's going to take for the print to finish, which is really cool to see. So I can walk down, oh, I still have 15 minutes left. Let me go get a drink. And then come back down and see where it's at. And that's a really cool feature. And the heat up on it works. That was another issue I had. So let me actually go back to that. Another issue I had is when I was printing out all those fossil fish on this, I would go clean off the build plate, take off my prints, start another print, and it would just sit there. I just completed 2 successful prints, hit print again, walked away, came back a few hours later, and it never moved. It never even heated up. The fan on the extruder kicked up, and that's it. I had to turn it off, turn it back on, try to print again, sit there, nothing happened. Turn it off, turn it back on again, nothing. Turn it off for a couple minutes, unplug the power supply, make sure it's totally dead, nothing's still powered to it. Put it back in. Sometimes it would restart, sometimes it'd take me to reboot it one more time. So upwards of 4 times I had to reboot this in order to get it to actually print again. And then when I did most of these prints I did in the past, 4 or 5 days, none of these had that issue. what the heck? I mean, how can I have an issue for like 2-3 weeks, and then all of a sudden it just goes away and everything prints? As soon as I hit the button and I hit print, it starts heating up and printing. There's just too many issues with this printer. I think it could be, it's a cool clone, let's say it that. I mean, it's a clone of the Fugatech Mini, which is a clone of the Mayan 200, which is probably a clone of something else. You know, it's a cool design. You know, I think it's very easy. I like the nozzle concept because it's a lot safer for kids. It's really hard to get burned with these unless you literally put your finger here on the bottom. But when it's printing, putting your finger in there really isn't going to happen, even with small fingers, because it has this great big housing on it, and you touch that, it is warm. Okay, it's hot, but it's not like burn your skin off 230 degrees centigrade or anything like that. Like it's about 100, so you're gonna hit it, ooh, ouch, and you're stopped. You're gonna get hurt that much. So there's a lot of cool things about this printer that I really like and I want to like, but I just can't because it is just not well executed. I think it's a good version 1. Hopefully version 2, they drastically drop the price. They actually fix the Wi-Fi. They add a heated bed and they adjust this nozzle crap so that it actually works better and you don't have this ooze. This ooze is actually common. A lot of people say that. And yes, you can buy replacements for I think $15 on their website. A lot of things that they can change. Again, I like a few things about it, but for version 1, this is an absolute pass. There's no reason whatsoever anybody should be buying this printer because it doesn't stand a candle to any other printers in a similarly priced category. So again, I'm going to compare it right now to the two I have similarly priced, which is the Fugatech Mini and the Ender 2. Slightly different build volumes, but way more feature rich for a lot less money than this is. I thank you guys for watching. I hope you found this useful. Whether or not you should actually buy this printer or not, probably not, but that's okay. Give the video a thumbs up if you agree with what I said or not. Talk to me in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you either way on what you guys think about the Geeetech E180. If you guys want to know what's going on the channel, make sure you're a subscriber. If you want to get email notifications, hit that bell icon. And again, you'll get an email anytime new videos hit the floor. If you want to support me financially, there's a Patreon link down below for monthly donations. Or if you just want to give me a one-time thing, buy me a coffee, donate me Streamlabs, something like that. There's also links down there for that. And if you would like to update your bookmarks with my affiliate links for various vendors on the webs, you can do that. A little slice of what you buy ends up coming back here to me. And I appreciate every one of you that do that. So thanks for watching, guys. And until next time, happy printing.